The transfer was settled in June 2022. 60 million euros, the most expensive striker signing in Premier League history, joining the most dominant club in England. Erling Haaland, 22 years old, 51 goals in 50 competitive games the previous season at Dortmund. The question was never whether he could score. The question, according to one of the sharpest tactical voices in English football, was whether he could belong. Jamie Carragher had spent 2 decades reading the game at the highest level. He'd won the Champions League. He'd played for Rafa Benitez, Gerard Houllier, Kenny Dalglish. He was not guessing. He was applying a coherent framework, and the framework said the same thing twice on live television. Haaland was not the perfect fit for Guardiola's City. Any good striker could get 30 in that system. The team was actually better without a traditional number 9. What happened next made the framework look like it had been written by someone who had never watched Erling Haaland play football. Why did Jamie Carragher's logic, built on genuine watching, genuine analysis, miss something so dramatically? That is the actual question here. The answer begins with what Guardiola had been doing before Haaland arrived. For years, City played without a recognized striker. The false 9 system, the positional rotations, the fluid attacking shapes. They all functioned precisely because no traditional centre-forward had ever fully fit what Guardiola demanded. Sergio Aguero came closest, but even Aguero operated in a hybrid role during the later years, dropping deep, combining rather than finishing alone. Carragher looked at this and drew a reasonable conclusion. The system was the point. Any striker placed inside it would be absorbed, partially wasted, reduced to a passenger for 60 minutes and a finisher for 30. The conclusion was reasonable. The player was not. First season, 36 Premier League goals. Not 31, not 34, which was Alan Shearer's record, a record that had stood for almost a century and was widely considered unreachable. 36, with time left over. Hat-tricks against Crystal Palace, Wolves, Nottingham Forest, RB Leipzig in the Champions League. 2 goals against Manchester United in both legs of the same derby double. Manchester City won the treble, Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League. In the very same season, Jamie Carragher said the system would limit him. Carragher's response was to double down. He said any good striker would score 30 in that system, that the goals proved nothing specifically about Haaland. It is, with respect, the argument of a man who has been caught wrong and has decided that being loud is preferable to being quiet. No striker in the previous 20 years had scored 30 in a Guardiola system. Not Aguero in his prime, not Zlatan at Barcelona, not David Villa, not Benzema. The record was available to every striker who had ever played under Guardiola. None of them got there. Haaland did it in his first 10 months at the club. So what did Carragher actually miss? Not the system, not the logic, the specific player. Haaland did something that has no precedent in Guardiola's career. He did not adapt to the philosophy. He made the philosophy adapt to him. Guardiola, one of the most controlling tacticians in the history of football, built his attacking structure around the specific movement of one centre-forward. That is not something systems do. That is not something coaches do. That is the thing only a certain category of player can do: force the most demanding environment in English football to reorganize itself around their presence. The system argument has a long and undistinguished track record. It said Ronaldo wouldn't fit under Mourinho. It said Messi could not perform internationally. It said Thierry Henry would be too physical for Wenger's Arsenal. Great players have a habit of making the argument look very small. Carragher saw the system. He analyzed it correctly. He just forgot to ask whether the player was the kind of person that systems get to contain. Haaland walked into the most tactically demanding club environment in English football and broke a record that had stood for almost a century. The system did not cage him. He simply did not notice the cage was there. By the time everyone agreed he was exceptional, the interesting part of the story was already over.